I'm Ashton Addison from the Crypto Coin Show, and today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Jon Jones, co-founder of Supra. Jon, welcome to the show, and thanks for taking the time.
Definitely. Great to be here, Ashton. I know Josh has been here on your show multiple times, so I'm happy to be here and to speak to you in person and here and to answer any of your questions.
Definitely. We've been following Supra for 3 years on the show, and the evolution of it going from an Oracle to a full vertically integrated layer 1 blockchain, which I'm sure you can explain all of what that means and what it encompasses. And it's turning out to be one of the bigger blockchain ecosystems that I'm following, and it's expanding into all of the different decentralized applications and everything now that it's been launching, successful launch over the past couple months. I would love to start with a little high-level overview on Supra. There's a lot of things that it does and can do. If you could give paint a bit of a picture for people on what is Supra and what makes it different to start.
Yeah, definitely. So if you can imagine what's like Supra, for most of our community and for most of the people know about Supra, is we're a high throughput layer 1. So you have chains like Solana, Sui, Aptos. Most of these modern kind of blockchains are already high throughput enough. Like they have pretty good speed, latency, and cost. But what Supra is actually bringing to the market is having this idea of vertical integration. So vertical integration with basically having this high throughput layer 1, but also with native oracles. And so we're talking about oracles as in getting external data on chain, like for price feeds powering DeFi, but also automation, cross-chain communication, like bridging, as well as randomness and other services. So what we're doing is creating a system that is great for not only consumers, because they can get information fast and cheap, but also for developers that they can create applications that have these vertically integrated services. So for a good example of this is if you want to create a perpetual protocol, or let's just say if you want to create a DEX, you need a high throughput layer 1, but then most DEXs or most perpetual protocols, they need an external oracle, this external protocol to bring in data sources. And you need also an external protocol to create automation. So automation is essentially an if this, then that system. So in Web 2, automation is very, in Web 2, most applications have automation. But in Web 3, for L1s, automation is just not something that you have automatically in a protocol. And so with Supra, what we do is we combine these different services of having a high throughput layer 1 with oracles, which is price feeds, automation, cross-chain communication, all into one. And so the point that I wanted to make is that it not only is a great user experience, but it's a great developer experience. The next thing that is interesting, of course, AI was a big hype, like Web3 and AI there was a big hype cycle in 2014, 2024. And also into this year, I think it's died down a little bit, but I think it's about to resurface. But the next thing that we need to start thinking about, besides developer experience, is beyond that, almost like agent experience. And so having a vertically integrated stack that is more easy to use and more efficient, not only for developers, but also for agents is really important. And so we at Supra see that the future of a lot of DeFi and a lot of transactions on chain will most likely be done by bots, or what we call now as agents. And they will most likely use the most efficient routing to do cross-chain communication, to interact with blockchain in many ways. And we believe that this vertically integrated stack is the most efficient also for the future of agents.
Wow, that's really fascinating. I'd love to dive into the AI side afterwards because I agree. I've seen a lot of AI agents, and I think the functionality part is catching up to the hype in the beginning. Everyone's talking about the future of AI is agents that will be able to do things for you. But at this point, I think a lot of people are, maybe they're doing inference with ChatGPT. You get some information, but then you actually have to do it yourself still. And we're getting to that turn where the agents are going to be trading for us. They're going to be managing the portfolio. They're going to be handling smart contract transactions. So I'm excited to see where that goes. But I want to jump back to part one, which of course is the essence of having a great blockchain. You mentioned, I think it's standard nowadays that you have to have the high throughput, decentralized, secure chain. Everyone has that. All of the blockchains are great in that they're pretty fast and they're pretty cheap. But that main part about the oracles and the price feeds, which I feel like that's something that maybe version 1 of blockchains like Ethereum, they just didn't think that far ahead, or it was an afterthought of, hey, for example, say there's a decentralized exchange on Ethereum, and you want to swap two assets. Well, the price, you have to use some third party to get the price from the markets. How does that make any sense in a decentralized world where it's supposed to be fully decentralized functionality between swapping these assets, but you require other parties to get the price? So I feel like Supra has that part down. I haven't really seen that a lot in blockchains, but I feel like that's something that should be common sense.
Yeah, totally. I think even back in 2018, we had different blockchains talking about a world computer, and even considering Ethereum as being a world computer. But what is what is the functionality of a computer? A computer, of course, should be able to have a ledger, and it should be able to actually speak to the outside world. And so from our experience with Supra, and also our experience with oracles and getting off-chain data on-chain, we realized pretty quickly that you not only need this ledger, but you also need to have this secure communication of data. And if you're gonna have a Web3 native a world computer, you're going to need to have high throughput blockchain. You're going to need to have secure data. And so that's really where the Oracle comes in. And of course, like Ethereum can use external protocols. You can say, you can have this layer 1, all these layer 2s and all these like external protocol oracles for different services, but it's much more inefficient and slow when you bring in all these different external protocols, because you no longer have the security of the underlying L1. Mm-hmm. So L1 consensus rarely fails in history. Ethereum, many different chains. From the consensus layer, from the L1 security is very, very strong. Mm-hmm. But as soon as you introduce an outside protocol, an outside oracle, a bridge over here, your application is now as weak as that weakest protocol. And also you're introducing all this complexity and all these different security assumptions. So when you have a vertically integrated L1 that has these native services, the validators and the nodes in your ecosystem are offering what we call shared security. And so all of the validators are kind of running consensus not only on transactional data, but also Oracle data. And we find that much more efficient to have the shared security. And we also, we can talk a little bit about containers later, but mm-hmm. the three pillars is shared security, shared liquidity, and also composability.
Mm. So with the vertically integrated chain, I've also heard a lot about modular blockchains. Are those two opposing ideas, and what are the trade-offs and the benefits of one versus the other?
Sure. So first of all, I'd like to define modular. So you can actually build, and most software is built in a modular way, where you have different components in one stack, and And so like building, like at Supra, we actually do build our layer one and our different protocols in a modular way. So that means that you can swap in and out. Like if you have a faster consensus algorithm, you swap that out. So for example, we have Moonshot now, which is very high throughput, low latency consensus algorithm. But we also have another one called Sailfish that could be a contender. And if it actually proves to be so, we can actually swap that out. So when you build software, you want to build in a modular way. Now, the definition of like in Web3 right now on crypto Twitter or on X, the modular versus integrated idea is having modular protocols. And so what that means is you have a totally different network of different validators and nodes that, that run different protocols. And at Supra, we find that to be very inefficient because that is, you don't have the shared security of one ecosystem that has a set number of validators and nodes to run that ecosystem. And so these different protocols have their own token, they have their own security assumptions, and they have their own, so they have their own token, they have their own security assumptions, and we find that to be very, very inefficient, and it's actually much more less secure to introduce these different protocols in different systems.
Yeah, I think that goes back to the point you made about the oracles as well. The more third parties and the more interchangeable parts, the more vulnerabilities for the security potentially. Having it
That's right.
in-house is maximum security, especially when you are going to have tens or hundreds of billions of dollars of value on the chain. I think security is of utmost importance.
Right. And so some people would argue having multiple protocols is more distributed and more decentralized. The thing is, the layer one itself should be the maximum security. It should have it should be distributed and it should be decentralized itself. And so if you can focus on scaling the layer one, and you can have, you can expand the amount of nodes and validators of your network, you can actually have maximum shared security on the layer one itself. And so we think at Supra that you should scale the layer one and that you should provide these vertically integrated services, these Oracle service under one hood, and that is still distributed and decentralized using the shared security of the layer one.
Mm-hmm. Now, earlier on, you mentioned about having a good developer experience, which is of utmost importance if you're going to make it easy to build applications and to have a lot of great applications on the blockchain. And with that also comes the virtual machine and the programming language that's chosen for the architecture that the developers get to use when they build the apps. And from what I've seen with Supra, it's on the MultiVM. But there was also the notion of MultiVM. Can you talk about the virtual machine and what that means for developers and for making apps?
Definitely. So we've been watching since the early Libra days at Facebook. We were watching the team, and we were looking into MultiVM and also MoveLang, and we were quite impressed. Josh specifically was very impressed, and we brought it to our developers, researchers, and they really felt like, okay, this could be the future of where you could actually onboard the next hundreds of thousands of developers with a programming language similar to Rust. So Move is it's a derivative of Rust, and it's one of the most loved Web 2 kind of programming languages. And so Move was specifically, like, I spoke to the founders of Sui, and also Sam, who is the original creator of Move. And I spoke to him, and he said that Move was created to have Move was specifically created for Web3 to make assets a first-class citizen. And so focusing on assets and things of value, being a first-class citizen on this programming language. And so that inspired me. But But yeah, our research team like dug deeper and found that Move is just much more secure and intuitive language. It's much more difficult to have bugs in Move, whereas in Solidity, it's very easy. It's much more easy to have bugs and issues in Solidity code, and so it's just Move is just it's a language that's easier to not mess up and to get things wrong. And so that's great. But just in general, for developer experience, you want to be able to have, you want to be able to give your developers multiple programming languages that they might already be used to. So for example, Solidity, Move, you also have, the version of Rust in Solana VM, etc. So you want to give developers more options. So that optionality is important. And you also, like, there are many applications already built in the EVM world, or applications that spent years building and learning how to build on Solana. And so the optionality for the developers that want to bring their applications multi-chain, I think it's important to have this multi-VM structure where you can allow them to build on different virtual machines on one shared security layer one. And so that's what we're doing at Supra, where we launched mainnet with Move and MoveLang and MoveVM. We're already on DevNet for EVM and for Ethereum. And later this year, Solana as well as Cosm Wasm will be live. So we'll have 4 different virtual machines and programming language under one shared security layer one. And this gives developers the options to create and bring their applications multi-chain, and to which we think is quite powerful. And when we talked about liquidity, being able to bring and tap into these different ecosystems, to tap into Solana or Ethereum, is really important to have the efficient movement of liquidity.
Definitely. No, that's great to hear, because there's such a network effect on Ethereum and Solana now too, of a lot of volume and liquidity and a lot of applications. And no one wants to rebuild from scratch. It's great that you're coming with Move and Rust, similar languages where developers that are the many developers that aren't in crypto yet, there's much more in the traditional world than there are in crypto. They can get started with something that they're familiar with, but the apps that are already in crypto, to not isolate them as well and say, hey, maybe we can port this over, or we can have a common bridge where we don't have to start over with what we've built over the last 5-10 years in crypto. I think having the best of both worlds is the right choice.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I agree.
And with the EVM compatibility, is there a bridge that moves assets across the chains, or how would that work?
Yeah, so there was a bridge that launched on Supra just last week, and we have more coming shortly. And Supra is also creating its own native bridge, which is something to look forward to. So we're going to be able to bridge assets from EVM to Supra, but also from different Move chains to Supra, et cetera. So we're setting up bridging to allow the movement of assets from these different virtual machines and these different ecosystems back and forth to Supra. So we already have some live, and we have some natively that will be live from Supra's bridge very soon, within the next let's just say within the next month.
Very, very cool. That's awesome. And with the Supra token, I've tested it out in the Starkey wallet. It's whenever there's a new wallet, there's one extra step for people they're like, okay, I already have Phantom, I have MetaMask or whatever. Now there's Starkey for the Move ecosystem. Can you talk about the wallet, and did the team build that specifically for Supra? And is it a lot different than what people are used to?
Yeah, so what we did is initially we found a team we found a very strong wallet team that we wanted to help kind of incubate, and we kind of wanted to help them launch, at least a good solid wallet on day one on Supra's after TGE and at mainnet. And so, yeah, Starkey Wallet is a team that we've been really working very closely with. We even Josh is, oftentimes in the Telegram chat and communicating directly to people. So we wanted to make sure that the first wallet that launched on Supra had amazing support. That was really key. We also really found that it was a good opportunity to bring a lot of our Project Blastoff users, which is kind of our Learn to Earn program that we did for Supra. By the way, Project Blastoff 2.0 is coming up, and maybe we can talk about that afterwards.
Cool.
But we wanted to bring a lot of our Project Blastoff participants and kind of funnel them into a good wallet experience. And we wanted to make sure that there wasn't that the first wallet on Supra wasn't, didn't just have basic functionality. And I guess the idea is that the Starkey wallet will be a multi-chain wallet, and we'll also be able to do cross-chain swaps and do a lot of different functionality within that wallet. But that being said, even though we did put a lot of focus into making sure that we had this Supra wallet on day one that was functional and that can do cross-chain wallet functionality, we do want to bring different wallets from different ecosystems that people are already using to Supra. So, for example, you mentioned Phantom Wallet. It would, I think, in the next couple months, I think it would be important for our ecosystem team to really be communicating with these different wallets to see how we can get integrated in more places, to be where a lot of different users already are. I think that's important for liquidity, getting more liquidity on Supra. It's important for just user experience, because most people, let's just say if they use Phantom or they use MetaMask, that's what they're used to. And of course, we want to give a good user experience for Web3 users to join the Supra ecosystem.
Definitely. No, I think it's a great experience from what I've tested it out a little bit so far. The ability to do staking of Supra in there, and there's vesting schedules and the cross-chain compatibility sounds like a great next step. I'm looking forward to seeing it. And you mentioned there about the Blastoff. I saw the numbers on the site. There was like over 500,000 fully KYC'd participants leading up to the mainnet. And I participated in the first round of the Blastoff a little bit. There was like a year or 2 years worth of like educational documents, because there's so much with Supra Chain. It's hard to encapsulate it in a 30-minute discussion, but like there was like years of like documentation in it's not just like a basic little learn and earn. It was like, here's like a whole chapter, and then there's multiple choice. There was a lot that I learned about Supra, and it's still growing, but it was just amazing to see how many people actually got involved in KYC. So they were unique people were involved before the mainnet launch.
Yeah, I think, well, for one, I think we were lucky that I think that maybe even the first point system that did this learn to earn kind of point system. So I know that these point systems are not as hot these days, but at least back then, being one of the first and having that early mover advantage of creating Project Blastoff, having this point system, and kind of having this time to educate our community was really quite special. And I know it was a very long time, and we had to stretch it out a little bit because we had to wait to TGE and mainnet going live. But yeah, it turned out to be very successful. 550,000 people, real people, KYC, joined and participated. And yeah, I think that was a huge success. But we're in a different market now. It's a different time. So Project Blastoff 2.0 is going to be different. It's not just going to be this point system or learn to earn. We actually want to upgrade our users to the next level. So it's not just learning now about Supra or blockchain. It's like, okay, go from learning to implementation, right? So the next stage of Project Blastoff is what is going to be aligned with something that we're coming up with shortly, and that you'll see on our socials soon, is our DeFi campaign. So we're going to launch Project Blastoff with our DeFi campaign and almost guide people to participate and to learn how to what is the next stage of learning about distributed systems. The next stage in blockchain Project Blastoff is to actually learn how to participate in DeFi. And so we're really excited about that. We have different ways we're going to incentivize users to kind of participate in staking and swapping and different things. So we really want to uplift Supra's DeFi ecosystem. We want to bring a lot of value to the projects and the developers that are launching on Supra. At the same time, we want to reward our ecosystem and users. So that's Project Blastoff. This is Project Blastoff 2.0. This is really going from education to actually implementation and action, and teaching through doing. So yeah, that's coming up. We'll have more announcements on that later, but this is I guess a sneak peek to what is to come for Project Blastoff 2.0 and this DeFi campaign.
Yeah, that sounds great, Jon. I'm sure now that the chain is live, there's more on-chain activities, how you can actually get involved in staking. The staking is already live as well on Starkey, but more liquidity pools and getting involved, borrowing, lending, other financial-based things that I'm going to check out. I'll watch for the announcements on X as that comes out, and because I really thought that the Blastoff Part 1 was very well done. And you're right, it's sort of overdone, but in a sort of shortcutted way by other projects. But you guys really put out a lot of educational material. It was like reading. It was like being forced to read through all the docs that everyone wants to skip over, to learn how the blockchain actually works. But you guys put a lot of time into it.
Because no one's really reading white papers anymore, right? So how do you educate? How do you kind of like how do we get the thesis out there about vertical integration? Like, the modular thesis was so strong in 2024. And how can we kind of not combat that, but how do we really get it into people's minds that vertical integration, that most technology trends towards vertical integration, and that the system that we're building has this from day one. So we had this idea from day one to really build a shared security system with vertically integrating native oracles, bridging, randomness, etc., under one hood. And so getting that out there, getting this narrative that vertical integration is the way to go, was an uphill battle. And so we felt like we had to do that through education, and of course through social media and through our through X and through our community. But I think we're getting there. And of course, Solana is a great example of Solana is a great example of some sort of vertical integration, and focusing on user experience, high throughput chain, low latency. So we've seen that consumers and users, they do like Solana. And so that's interesting. And I think in 2025, we're going to see, I believe we're going to see people that protocols like Supra or Aptos or Sui are trending towards vertical integration. So for example, Sui, I think, is launching their own bridge. So they're also seeing, okay, we have to vertically integrate. Aptos is also deploying their own randomness. And I'm sure the next thing you'll hear is Aptos is going to deploy their own bridge. So yeah, I think in general, 2025 could be the year that we see that vertical integration becomes a bigger thesis. And hopefully, it can kind of rival the modular camp.
Yeah, I think it will, and I think that a lot of the smart people have realized that these MultiVM ecosystem blockchains are getting it right, and I'm looking forward to seeing where Supra goes with it. And earlier on, Jon, we hinted about sort of the future of AI and agents and actually bringing functionality to the world, and not just hype that AI is taking over? How can it actually benefit us in the blockchain world, in the financial world? Do you have any insights or thought on how AI agents might fit into Supra in the future, and how it might help us in the Web3 world?
Sure. Whenever I think about AI agents, I tend to think too far ahead and think about the possibilities of what really is going to happen, because I almost like, I kind of think that everything that we imagine is going to happen and more. And I have to ground myself. So, when speaking with Josh and the team, we are really trying to we haven't really put a lot of AI information or AI agent on our socials or on X or in our content. But we will be shortly. But I think what we're, like you mentioned, we're probably going to, instead of focusing on the far-fetched ideas, we're going to talk about a lot of what we can do today and kind of the real world applications of how we can use AI agents. So we recently are working very closely with a project. There's going to be an announcement soon on socials for this, so I shouldn't mention the project name, but it's an indexing product that we're going to be working very closely with, and we're going to implement an AI agent to help craft trading strategies using historical data and also our Oracle network. We're going to be able to craft trading strategies for users. So users will be able to communicate with a agent or a bot, and it'll be able to craft strategies for them to trade or for them to do this or that. And not only just craft it in the idea phase, but also at the end being able to hit a button, start or go, and actually implement that strategy in the real world. And you can really only do that if you have a combination of services, or vertically integrated services. You need it, of course, you need the layer one, you need the oracles, you also need automation, and you need historical index data. So you need the data. So combining these four things together with AI agents, we can be able to do real world for the end user, but also agents can be able to use other agents to perform these tasks. And so that's something that's coming up where we have this relationship with this company that we're creating this dashboard where you're going to be able to communicate with an agent and craft trading strategies specific to you and hit start or go, and it'll be able to actually implement that across many different chains. So I think what I'd like to see for this version, for version 1, is to be able to interact with Supra, maybe Ethereum and Solana. But in the end, we would want this trading strategy to go multi-chain, to be able to interact in almost every single DEX on every single chain, because you want to give that freedom. You want to interconnect. The AI agent should be able to interconnect everywhere, and it should have really great data and historical data. And so that's what we're seeing for 2025 in the interaction of AI agents and blockchain, historical data and oracles, is having agents being able to craft different trading strategies and then to be able to implement. That's exciting.
That's very exciting. I'm looking forward to that, and I hope it comes out and it can change DEXs and trading on all chains. And I feel like that will be the aha moment where everyone realized how important AI and blockchain are as a synergy together. So I'm looking forward to seeing that come out. And there's great insights, Jon, on all of these topics. I appreciate you teaching me a little bit more about the Move ecosystem, the AI agents, and I'm looking forward to checking out the next part of the Blastoff campaign, because I do want to get further involved and keep learning about Supra as it's growing. You guys are really still at the beginning. The main chain is there, but DeFi is coming. All of the other apps of all of the other parts of industries that are not so techy but can also be disrupted by blockchain. The possibilities are endless once the developers take hold and start building even more dApps on Supra. I know that there's already dozens and dozens being built, but I would expect thousands in the future. So I feel like we're pretty early on. Do you have any last words on, you've given a lot of great hints on what's coming in 2025. Is there anything else that is worth mentioning as well?
Yeah, so just I mean, I guess on the event front, we have Consensus coming up. There's a lot of things happening. We'll be at Consensus in Hong Kong. We have ETH Denver coming up. We got Token in Dubai. Then we have we're going to be the title sponsor of Permissionless in New York. This is going to be a very busy year. We have a full-on schedule for events, and not only physical events. We have a lot of appearances on public podcasts coming up that are scheduled, and so there's going to be a lot more media and content that we're going to be producing. But I mean, this is that's kind of on the marketing event side. But in the next week, we have automation that's going to be live. We're going to have our native bridges coming live. We have so many of these DeFi applications launching. So I would just say I'm really excited about our DeFi campaign, launching Project Blastoff 2.0, and actually having users to have going from the education part of Project Blastoff 2.0 to this DeFi version. That's really exciting. Yeah, I'm having a blank right now, but sorry about that.
I think all that's great, and I can leave a link to the Supra X, any more information on the Blastoff campaign when it comes out. I can leave that in the show notes as well, and I'll leave a link to the Supra platform and any other ways that people can get connected into it. I really do appreciate all of your insights, Jon. I'm wishing you and the Supra team all the best moving forward. Maybe I'll catch you at some of those events on the marketing side, or I'll be there on the Blastoff campaign. So thank you so much for taking the time, and let's follow up in the near future.
Let's do it. Always great, Ashton. Thank you.